Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today, of course, by our producer, Jonathan Voico.
Good morning, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
Well, hello there.
And, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show a part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics that we got lined up for you guys. And then in the second part of our show, well, that's when we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or topic you'd like us to address, as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on to our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news about the tip link. It's actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to the show a little bit later on podcast, either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching the show a little bit later in the day, you can still send in a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. Hey, listen, before we get started, this weekend was mine and Ann's 15th wedding anniversary.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And we decided to go spend the weekend in San Diego. Had a wonderful time. Big gathering for the No Kings March and all that kind of stuff as well. We went to Balboa Park, ate in some great restaurants. It was great. But here's the thing.
Love Balboa Park.
I do too.
So Thursday, Friday, I had a couple of people email me, a couple of our viewers email me saying, hey, John, there's this theater in Connecticut that's advertising Superman on July 4th. I saw a couple of these. I'm like, really? So I went and checked it out. And sure enough, they had tickets for July 4th. And we're driving on our way to San Diego. I'm like, I don't know. So we call the number of the theater and I get them on the phone. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm on your site right now. And it says July 4th Superman screens. It's not opening nationwide till the 11th. And the early screenings for Amazon is the 8th. But you guys are saying you're showing them on the 4th. And they go, yep. Showing Superman on the 4th. And then we're talking about 2025's James Gunn's Superman, not Superman the movie, a relaunch of the Christopher Reeve, because it's the modern Superman poster. Said, nope, new Superman movie, July 4th. I'm like, sweet. So Ann and I have a quick conversation. Are we willing to fly across the country to Connecticut to see Superman a few days early?
It's beautiful this time of year.
And the answer was, hell yes. So Ann and I bought the tickets, all excited. I shared this on social media, saying, look what I just got. There was my confirmation. 2 tickets, Superman, July 4th. Ending time, 9:51 p.m.
Is this like in a small town or something? Like what's?
Yeah, it's a smaller town in Connecticut. I can't remember the exact name of the town in Connecticut.
Wow.
But it was about an hour north of New York. So Ann and I think, okay, we'll fly into New York. We'll Uber in from there. All this kind of stuff. But we kept saying, you know what? I'm going to call them again and get another manager. It's one thing to buy $40 of movie tickets.
Sure.
Another thing to book flights. That's not cheap. We would have to make some sacrifices to do that. But for an early screening of Superman, we were willing to do it. So we thought, okay, you know what? Monday, we're going to call again, talk to a different manager, find out what's going on. And then Sunday, I got this email saying, notice of refund. They refunded my tickets because I guess they made a mistake. They are not showing Superman.
Because James Gunn said the hell you are.
You're saying, what? I'm sure James Gunn saw my post like, wait a minute, what? They're selling Superman tickets on July 4th.
John blew it for everyone.
Bro, yeah, maybe that was my fault.
It's just a misdirect. They really are going to show it there now.
They screwed me to misdirect everybody else. So I started my week, Rob, with heartbreak. Can only go up from here. Because I thought I was going to go see Superman on July 4th. That's fine. I'll see it on the 8th with everybody else. But I was really thinking I was going to go see it I was going to fly across the country just so I could see this damn movie.
Go to AMC. Heartbreak feels better there.
Damn you, James Gunn, for pulling the plug on this. I don't know if he was the one to pull the plug or not. Anyway, guys, with that all down, we do have a number of things we got to talk about here today. And we're going to get things started with this. Well, today is Monday, June the 16th, which means yesterday, for those of you who take advanced math, that yesterday was the 15th. And June 15th, 2025, Rob, marks the 20th anniversary of Batman Begins. As you can see it here, Batman Begins turns 20 years old. Yesterday was the official anniversary of it. Number one, feeling a little old. This movie was 20 years ago.
It's crazy.
But, I was thinking about it a little bit, about the actual importance of the film. Not just because this was a film that led us to The Dark Knight, which most people agree is a top 5 best comic book movie ever made. Some people believe it is a number 1 comic book movie ever made. But I think its legacy goes beyond that. This movie came out in 2010. I think it is one of the 2 most significant comic book movies of all time. I think the most significant comic book movie of all time was the first X-Men film. Because while we had movies like Blade and whatever, like Batman and Robin essentially kind of killed the comic book genre for a bit. And yeah, we had Blade, and Blade is great, but Blade didn't change the landscape. It's when that X-Men movie came out. And I've heard multiple producers and everything talk about the fact that it's when we in Hollywood saw X-Men, that first X-Men movie, starting with that concentration camp scene and all that kind of stuff, that we realized comic book movies could be different. And it kind of launched the resurgence of the comic book films. But I would suggest that the next step in that evolution, see a little play on X-Men language there? The next step in that evolution was actually Batman Begins. That again kind of told the world, you could make a totally different kind of comic book movie. And I mean, it kind of became the comic book movie that kind of keyed the phrase of reboot and all this kind of stuff. And it launched for us a series that some would argue is maybe the greatest comic book trilogy of all time, with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. I'm not a huge fan of The Dark Knight Rises, but whatever. But you just can't look past its importance. And yeah, Christopher Nolan had done the memory with a short
Inception.
Not Inception.
Memento.
Memento. Thank you. He had done Memento, which really put him on the map for a lot of studios. And Christian Bale had done American Psycho and several other things that, studios, but it was the movie that really put both Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale on the map for film fans. I mean, that's what made them household names, was these things. And we're sitting here at 20 years later, Rob. I mean, it's hard to imagine that this film is now 20 years old. What are your thoughts when you look back on 20 years of Batman Begins and the movie's significance?
Well, it's for me, I was actually working on Superman Returns in Sydney, Australia, and the cast and crew went and saw Batman Begins. We all walked across the lot because the Fox Studios lot is next to an entertainment center where they had a big movie theater.
Right.
It's the same place we all went and saw Revenge of the Sith too. And so, everybody was looking at it like, here we are working on a Superman reboot and going to see a Batman reboot. And I think everybody was, despite what you think of Superman Returns, I think everybody was really encouraged and impressed by Batman Begins because of the tone that it took. I mean, what's interesting is, and this is, you mentioned Bryan Singer's X-Men. I feel that X-Men is the same, in the same boat that you feel that it is in. But for me, the real comic book resurgence began in the scene with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, because this was pre-Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And you had these 2 powerhouse actors acting together in a scene, you get out of my head, Charles, and all this. And you're watching these 2 characters. It was the most least comic booky, but yet the most reverent comic book scene, because anyone who's an X-Men fan, I was a huge X-Men fan. I read 30 years of X-Men comics, and I still to this day love the X-Men. And to see those two actors bring that gravitas.
Yeah, it was something totally new.
Well, and look, we had Sam Raimi's Spider-Man come out, and that was fun and all of that, but that was still set in comic book world. I mean, it was a heightened, colorful New York and Green Goblin, and it was great. But you get to Batman Begins, and the way when Christian Bale goes on his walkabout and is going up to find Ra's al Ghul and is going to go up and find the League of Shadows, and he's walking across that glacier, and you see those, and you're looking at this going, okay, this movie looks and feels different than any other comic book movie that we've ever seen before, because it was both grounded and fantastical, but it was shot like it was not a quote unquote comic book movie. And it was played almost straight,
like a crime thriller.
Yeah, like same with the Penguin. And you're watching this going, and there was a gravitas and the removal between the audience from the fantastic to the real. Comic book movies, X-Men 1 still has Toad and Sabretooth.
Yeah.
You know, and you still got Magneto, and you still got Bruce Davidson being turned into a creep, dies, his affliction that he's, and Rogue and Wolverine. So it's got that comic book stuff. Batman Begins has none of that. Even the Scarecrow is a nightmare-induced drug hallucination when you see, his face. And that told you that comic book movies are now elevated out. Because look, Superman the movie, you could say that about, but it still is elevated. Gene Hackman's kind of goofy, and Ned Beatty, Otis Berg. It's just a bitty place, Luthor. Just a little bitty place,
Otis Berg.
Yeah. Mom, or Lex, my mother lives in Hackensack. But the difference, Batman Begins told the world that comic book movies have reached another level. And I think then the MCU ran with that and combined the comic book pop art of the comic book origins, but put it together with real human pathos. Like Tony Stark was a real guy. He felt real. You felt like you knew him, that he could exist in our world today. And I think you're right. Batman Begins was a doorway that changed the perception of what comic book movies could be. And that was all Christopher Nolan. Yeah. And the ultimate example of that was the promise he made with Batman Begins was fulfilled in The Dark Knight.
That really fulfilled with The Dark Knight. And again, it's hard to imagine, but it was 20 years ago. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Batman Begins is now 20 years old. Now, after you get over feeling so old, what do you think about its legacy and its place in the overall kind of history now of the comic book genre? Whatever you guys think of its importance, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Will Smith did an interview recently where he was talking about, speaking of Christopher Nolan's movie Inception, where, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio led the film. But apparently Leonardo DiCaprio was not the first choice. Will Smith is revealing for the first time that he was offered the role, and he turned it down. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Said the next time Will Smith gets offered an alternate reality sci-fi thriller, he should seriously just consider saying yes. First, the actor admitted he turned down The Matrix, which cast Keanu Reeves instead, and history was made. Now, Smith confirms he also turned down the lead role in Christopher Nolan's Inception, which ended up starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think I've ever said it publicly before, but I'm going to say it now because we're opening up to one another, Smith told the radio station Kiss Extra, with a fair amount of good humor. Chris Nolan brought me Inception first, and I didn't get it. I've never said that out loud. Now that I think about it, it's those movies that go into those alternate realities that don't pitch well, but I am hurt by those too. It hurts too bad to talk about. Okay. Now, we all know, like, some of the best stories in Hollywood are the stories about roles that never happened. Sean Connery being offered Gandalf before Ian McKellen, but thought it was silly and decided to make The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen instead. And how did that turn out? Of course, Tom Selleck, not originally supposed to be Magnum PI, he was supposed to be Indiana Jones. But because of a conflict with the contract he had to do Magnum PI, he had to leave Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford took it over. But Will Smith is now like the mainstay name. Because yes, famously, he turned down the role of Neo, which ended up being a mistake. He also, lest we forget, he turned down the role of Django in Django Unchained, that eventually Jamie Foxx took over. And that was a mistake on his part. And now we find out he also turned down Inception, a chance to work with Christopher Nolan, which of course, even he says now, that's a painful one. That one hurts. Now, I know it's easy for all of us to want to jump up and say, man, he's dumb. But think about it for a second. Hindsight, they say, is 20/20. It's always easy to see which way you should have turned when you look in the past. Oh, I should have done this. Well, that's easy to know now. It's a little bit different when you're in the moment. And how many times have we talked about, how on earth could this actor do this movie? Didn't he realize this movie was stupid? Why did he do it? Well, I think Will Smith is right. I think when you look at Inception, that's a hard film to pitch. Even though it was Christopher Nolan, and if you're an actor and you're not getting what it is the director's going for, maybe it was the right idea for him to say no. I mean, obviously in hindsight, it was a mistake. The Matrix thing. Who were the Wachowskis at the time? They didn't have any kind of, gravitas to their name. It was just like some weird science fiction film, and who knew that was going to... And remember, they ended up going with Keanu Reeves, who was nobody at the time. His career was... I mean, his Bill and Ted days were long in the rearview mirror by that point. And they ended up settling with Keanu Reeves, but it turned out to be perfect. History was made. The one thing that I always thought was a bad decision on his part, and it was bad even when he made it, was he has a chance to work with Quentin Tarantino in Django. And he said no because Christoph Waltz's character does some heroic things too. And Will Smith thought his character, Django, should be doing all the heroic things, including killing Leonardo DiCaprio at the end. And because he didn't think, he thought too much spotlight went to the Doc character, he turned it down. That was the one that I thought was, well, that's a stupid reason.
Yeah.
That's a stupid reason. You have a chance to work with Quentin Tarantino. The script is obviously great. Other than Death Proof, when does Tarantino drop the ball? I mean, you go for that one. But again, it is funny though, Rob, in hindsight, you look back, he turned down Matrix. Imagine, listen, Will Smith already has an iconic, legendary Hollywood career.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change that. Slap or no slap. Imagine Will Smith's filmography and legacy. If on top of everything he's done, you add The Matrix, you add Django Unchained, and you add a Christopher Nolan film in Inception. Where does Will Smith then rank? I mean, it's already an impressive resume. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this story that on top of all the other films we know he's turned down, he turned down Inception. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm of two minds of Will Smith, about Will Smith. I'm a huge Will Smith fan. I love like Enemy of the State. He was great in that with Hackman. I love Hitch. You know, the
Hitch
comedy.
was a lot of fun.
Hitch. Will Smith, though, if you look at his career, even when he takes things like the lesser parts he's taken in lower budget movies, he's always front and center. Will Smith is not an ensemble guy. He's a guy that wants to be the star. And if you look at all of his movies,
and that philosophy has served him well.
It served him well.
To be fair.
It served him well. But you know, what he says about Django is a perfect example of that. What do you mean I don't get to kill the bad guy? His career has been hampered, even when he plays Serena Williams.
King Richard.
King Richard. He was great.
He was great
in King Richard.
With Aaron Cummings, by the way.
Yeah,
was in that film
with
as
Aaron
well.
Cummings.
Yeah.
He was great in that, but he's front and center. Will Smith does not want to be in an ensemble, and that's his Achilles heel. And he's missed all these opportunities for himself because, like with Matrix, I get it. It's easy to say now that I don't get Inception or I don't get The Matrix or I don't, I didn't like, but he was offered a chance. Yeah, the Wachowskis didn't know, and I could see passing on The Matrix, but you don't pass on a Quentin Tarantino movie. You don't do that, especially after you've seen his entire ensembles that Tarantino was so great about. Even in Reservoir Dogs, you put together a bunch of guys. Who's the star of Reservoir Dogs? I mean, you could say that Tim Roth is the star, but really there's an ensemble. You got
It's really
Harvey
an ensemble
Keitel.
film, yeah.
And Pulp Fiction, you'd go, hey, Sam Jackson's big breakout role in Pulp Fiction, but it's still an ensemble. Bruce Willis agreed to be in Pulp Fiction, you know, and he wanted to play the Jules part originally. And Quentin Tarantino said, I'm not going to do that. But he was smart enough to come back, and Bruce Willis go, okay, I'll play this guy. That's been Will Smith's problem. He only takes movies where he's front and center. And I think he missed out. Inception's the same way. Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio is the star of Inception, but that's also an ensemble film. You've got all of these other great actors surrounding you. And after Christopher Nolan, Inception came after The Dark Knight?
Yes.
Okay, he'd done The Dark Knight. He'd done The Prestige. He'd been an indie darling with Memento. He made Insomnia, which is why Warner Brothers believed he could do Batman.
Still my favorite Christopher Nolan film.
I mean, yeah, and all of this, how do you not follow your director? You know, Tom Cruise has always been a movie star, but he always went with the material and the filmmakers. He always went with collaborators. And that's, if you look at his career all the way back to working with Marshall Brickman on Risky Business when his first big starring role happened, he always picked material and collaborators first. And I think that's hampered Will Smith's career.
The funny thing too is I was looking at like what he had been in around the time of 2010 and 2012, which would have been Inception and Django, and he had a light schedule. I mean, you're talking about 7 Pounds previously to that, and Hancock. And then after that,
7
after
Pounds, not a great movie, I don't think, but his performance was fantastic.
He's a great actor.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a really
good
great performer. But even in Hancock, you know, he's front and center in that.
Now, there was Suicide Squad.
But that was later.
Yeah, that was a little bit
That's
later.
when after Marvel movie. That's when comic book movies were making the big money.
Yeah.
And he's still kind of this, even though that was ensemble. You're right, but I think that came later after he'd seen these were after all these mistakes had been made.
And I think that was a reaction to that. You're right.
You're 100%. His accepting that role was totally a reaction to some of the stuff the opportunities he had turned down. And listen, think what you will about that Suicide Squad movie. Made a lot of money.
It did make a lot of money.
Made a lot of money. Anyway, guys.
And he got a Hot Toys figure out of it.
He did. Question is for you. What do you think about that? Can you imagine? I mean, Will Smith already has an incredible, if he retired tomorrow, an incredible Hollywood legacy. Can you imagine if you added on top of that Matrix, Inception, and Django? I mean, it's crazy to think about. What do you think about all this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, a brand new trailer has just dropped for the new Liam Neeson comedy, The Naked Gun. Of course, kind of a relaunching of the Naked Gun franchise. They showed us a preview for it at CinemaCon. We thought it was pretty damn funny. They just dropped a new trailer showing some of the stuff that was actually in that preview at Comic-Con. And I will say for myself, I think it was a really good trailer. Now, listen, we've been saying on this show, I've been saying on this channel for a while now that I'm a little bit nervous about Spaceballs 2 because it's just nearly impossible to do that style of comedy anymore and to do it well.
Yeah.
And so I'm nervous about it. But the previews I've seen for Naked Gun, pardon me, have given me some optimism. And so with this new trailer coming out, I thought one of two things would happen. Either number one, in order to be funny, they would have to abandon the style of the old Naked Gun. Or number two, they would keep the style of the old Naked Gun and fail to be funny. For me, they've managed to accomplish both. They absolutely have recaptured the style and the DNA of the old Naked Gun in the old 80s spoof films. They've totally recaptured it. And I think they've done so effectively. I mean, the most telling, best example of that is Pamela Anderson coming into his office and him saying, "Take a seat." And she goes, "Thank you," and picks up the chair and walks out of the room. That is so perfect for that era of comedy. Like it's an absolutely perfect representation. Of course, the absolute funniest moment was Pamela Anderson cleaning the oven. That's going to become the new euphemism. Yeah, cleaning the oven, huh? But that was absolutely hilarious. I think that was Busta Rhymes. He said, "I see you spent 20 years convicted for manslaughter." I killed a guy.
I thought
Must
that
have
was
been a hilarious
I thought that
joke.
was very funny.
That
That
was-
was my favorite thing in the trailer.
It must have been hilarious. So for me, as still cautiously optimistic as I am, because again, we haven't seen a good spoof movie in decades, Rob. Decades. But for me, this is showing promise. Now, you liked what they showed us at
Yeah.
CinemaCon, but you weren't as thrilled with this trailer.
No, I mean, there's something about it I don't look. I still think some of it was like that line, the manslaughter.
You were going to spend 20 years
That
with
was hilarious to me,
manslaughter.
and I think it's really hard to pull this kind of stuff off. But look, obviously Liam Neeson's having a ball, and I still want to see the film. I thought this trailer might have been, I don't know if it was a little too much, but there's still a lot of funny stuff in it. I mean, you know what? This is going to seem weird, John. Do you know what I didn't love about this trailer?
What's that?
And I didn't feel that the way the first time. This movie is shot. It looks like it's shot beautifully. Like there's like a bank robbery scene. The
Right.
interior, it looks almost like Tony Scott's Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, it feels like it's a serious thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, I found myself, this is a weird thing to say, and it's not fair until I see the whole film. But there is a conventional wisdom that says a comedy needs to be shot like
Differently.
a comedy.
Right.
And I have to say, one of my favorite comedies of the last 20 years is the first Ted.
Oh,
I
love
thought
that
the
movie.
first Ted was great. Seth MacFarlane. I hated the second Ted. I hated it. And it was the same. And it was because it was a tonal issue that in the first Ted, you believed. It's just the only thing wrong with the world was that Ted himself couldn't have existed. But everything else felt organic to that world. Whereas Ted 2, everything felt forced. Everything was kind of ridiculous and heightened. I thought
Although I will say, to give credit to Ted 2, which I agree was nowhere near as good as first.
nowhere near.
I think the single funniest joke in all of the Ted franchise was in that one, where they break into the sperm bank, the thing tips over, and what I might be getting some of the wording wrong, but oh my God, you're all covered in black guy jizz. This is what it must feel like to be Khloe Kardashian or Kim Kardashian.
Right.
Which I was like,
Right.
oh my God, I can't believe they made that show.
But yeah, I just, and I'm hoping that this movie all works together because I'm a huge fan. Look, to the granddaddy for me of all spoof movies, there's two. There's Blazing Saddles and Airplane. And then after that, you had like Top Secret and The Naked Gun, the Police Squad stuff. And then I really liked, what's Not Another Teen Movie? Is that the one that stars Chris Evans?
Yeah, I think it's not another teen movie.
That's pretty funny too.
Well, then there's not the Martin Sheen one. Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie.
Loaded
Sheen
Weapon.
one.
Loaded
Shots
Weapon.
Part
Hot
Two.
Shots Part
Well,
2.
Hot Shots Part 2, and then his brother Emilio Estevez did Loaded Weapon with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
I forgot
I
about Loaded
love
Weapon.
that one. And William Shatner's in that.
Yeah, he is.
And then came the era of the
It just
Meet the Spartans,
schlock.
and
Yeah,
it
that
just
was
became this
terrible.
vomit, and
It
it
just
killed the
schlock.
whole genre. But
Because a spoof movie still has to work as a movie.
All
You
they
know-
did was reference. It was
yeah,
like, dude.
pop culture reference. Pop culture
right.
reference.
That's
all it
not.
was,
Whereas Airplane, even though they're doing a riff on, I forget the name of the airline disaster movie. It's not Fail Safe. It's
Oh, I know
not Red Alert. It's called something else. But the story of Airplane, it's played straight. Like the story,
Yeah.
the plot unfolds, and it that still works. I watched somebody reacted.
Airport 77.
No, it was something else. It's an earlier movie, like from the 50s.
By the way, likened unto Ted and Ted 2, while Airplane 2 was nowhere near as good as Airplane
No.
1, I still think maybe the funniest joke in the Airplane series came from number 2, when they're in, I think William Shatner is down in air traffic control, and who's piloting the thing? It's Stryker. Pull his record. We did, and it's literally an album.
Right.
And it's got Stryker with an accordion.
Yeah.
He says, we pulled his record, sir. It's not good. It doesn't
Yeah.
look good. And I'm like, I don't know why. I think that's like the funniest moment. That and
Someone
I
says
Think
0
Drive
hour.
is like
0 hour. That's what it is. It's 0 hour. That's correct. See, somebody knew. But yeah, but those, I mean, look, when those spoof movies are done well, it's a tough art form.
so hard.
It's a tough art form. But Airplane, I watched this weekend. I watched a reaction video to it. Some couple reacted to it. I don't think they even heard of it, and they watched it, and they're like, "This movie is a masterpiece." And I'm like, "Still is." 45 years later.
By the way, you know what? It's been a long time since I watched. You mentioned Top Secret. That's one of my all-time
It's so
favorite
good.
ones with Val Kilmer. I got to go back and watch that one again. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about the new trailer for Naked Gun? Rob doesn't quite like it as much as the earlier stuff we saw. I think it's looking quite promising. It's going to be tough to pull it off. Do you think it can do it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your
Manslaughter.
thoughts.
It's so funny.
All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. July is going to be a massive, massive month. We got 3 huge blockbusters, as well as some other films opening up. But we've got Jurassic World, we got Superman, and don't forget about Fantastic Four. Now, Fantastic Four made the news a couple of weeks ago because when its tickets went on sale, at the time, Fandango reported that the first day ticket sales for Fantastic Four broke the record for the year so far and was the #1 advanced ticket sales for the year. In a year that we've had Lilo and Stitch and the Minecraft movie, films flirting with the $1 billion mark, and Fantastic Four sold the most tickets, but we didn't have the box office projections for it yet. And now we do. According to reports coming out right now, Fantastic Four's opening weekend box office projection is somewhere between 125 million on the low end and 155 million on the high end. Now, to put that into perspective, when we look back at the other Fantastic Four films, Fantastic Four, the original in 2005, we're not counting the Corman one, but opening up in 2005, it opened to $56 million, ended up making 333 worldwide. Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, in 2007, it made $58 million opening weekend, $301 million total worldwide. The Michael B. Jordan, Miles Teller Fantastic Four in 2015 opened to just $25 million, ended up making a paltry $168 million worldwide. And they are projecting that Fantastic Four First Steps could be triple what the previous, close to triple what the previous opening. The biggest opening was 58 million. They say this could be as high as 155. I think there was a lot of people that may have underestimated how much of a difference Marvel now doing a Fantastic Four movie would have. I mean, again, I think if it wasn't for the long and poor track record, we could be talking about 180 to 190 to $200 million opening. But the reality is, in just the last couple of years, man, just from this chart, we've had bad Fantastic Four film after bad Fantastic Four film after bad Fantastic Four film. So I think that's holding it back a bit. But Rob, even given all that these are all new characters, the fact that it's had horrible, we've had this is the 3rd reincarnation of it already in just a few years.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 125 to 155 million. I'm thinking that's incredible. Like I'm thinking that would be for them fantastic. What do you think about the projections? Do you think it'll come in lower? Do you think it'll come in higher? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of excitement around this movie. I think people are pulling for this movie. I mean, I think people, like, I know that I want it to be good, to see a proper Galactus. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that's going on in this movie that we haven't seen yet. Because there's been very little, if you look at what they've shown us, you know, like in these big event films, especially movies that have a lot of scrutiny on them, we're only seeing, they pick like, here's 3 scenes and we're going to make all of our trailers from these 3 scenes and maybe throw in a handful of shots from other scenes. And I think they've done that with this. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in this movie that we have no idea are coming. I kind of felt that way about the Thunderbolts too. When I watched Thunderbolts, the act of watching the movie, I liked the fact that I really didn't know what was coming. I didn't even know what the overall tone of the movie was going to be. It was all different than the marketing. And I'm sorry the movie hasn't done better because I thoroughly enjoyed watching Thunderbolts. I think the Fantastic Four is going to be the same thing. I think it's going to really deliver. And in that sense, I think people are going to be surprised by it, hopefully delighted by it, and they're going to go spend their money. So I love these projections. To me, they seem optimistic, but they know from pre-sales where they're at. But I'm really hoping that this movie will surprise people and be great. I feel the same way about it that I feel about Superman. You know, I want Superman to be a huge hit. The more I see of it, the more it seems like it appeals to me. You know, John, I'll admit to you, I watched Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate version, and half of Justice League yesterday. I just, you know what? I was sitting there. I did a show. I went. It was hot. And I just sat in the big chair in the movie room, and the dogs curled up next to me, and I'm like, people have been talking a lot of Snyder lately. I'm gonna just watch this, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
I kind of did the same thing, except I watched A New Hope. I watched Star Wars last night. But speaking of Superman, I wanted to bring up that could be a wild card here because these projections of 125 to 155. I want to throw this out there. And we kind of mentioned this before. If Superman is great, or remember, it comes out about 2 weeks before Fantastic Four. If Superman is great, and I know that's a big if, but if it is, and you got all these people going to see it, a lot of them just average film goers, and they go into Superman, and if it's wonderful, those people are more likely to go, that was a really good time. When's the next comic book movie? 2 weeks, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So I would say if Superman ends up being a total dud and people have a bad time, you could see this opening weekend number drop a bit. But if Superman is fantastic, no pun intended, and people have a ball and they have a great time, I think you could even see this number go a little bit north of 155. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, we saw that with what happened in theaters. I mean, Warner Brothers certainly, they had 3 very different movies getting released when everybody went and saw them. When people are having a good time at the movies, they want to go back. They want to recreate that experience. And I think having Superman and Fantastic Four, I mean, there's enough room. There's 2 weeks. If Superman's as big as we think it's going to be playing deep into August, maybe into September. And I think it can only benefit Fantastic Four. And if people like Fantastic Four, they'll go back to see Superman, you know, or let's do a double feature.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to do that if both are good. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The projection numbers are out. Low end for the opening weekend of Fantastic Four, 125 million. High end, 155 million. Both the low and the high obliterate the previous numbers from the old Fantastic Four. Do you think it'll come in lower? Do you think it'll come in higher? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a number of other things to talk about, including How to Train Your Dragon just had a big opening weekend, bigger than I thought it would be. Nicholas Galitzine has just posted his first image, having wrapped the new Masters of the Universe movie, the first image of him as He-Man. We're going to discuss that. And James Gunn has just said in his DCU, dead is dead. It ain't going to be the Marvel fake death cinematic universe where it doesn't matter if people die. He's saying, if somebody dies, they're dead. Anyway, we're going to talk about his comments and more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Guys, one of the things that's really frustrating to me is that there's still a lot of stigma around men's mental health, but it should not be that way. Men are expected to always stay strong, keep it together, provide, perform, and yet over 6 million men in the US experience depression each year, and many go undiagnosed. It's okay to admit that you could use some help. Real strength is being able to say, I need to talk to someone. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With over 35,000 licensed therapists, BetterHelp is the largest online therapy platform in the world, having already helped over 5 million people. And it's super convenient. You can join sessions from anywhere, whenever it works for you. You can even switch therapists anytime at no extra charge. And the results speak for themselves. BetterHelp has a 4.9 out of 5 rating on the App Store with over 1.7 million reviews. So guys, if you're feeling the weight of the world, don't carry it alone. talk it out with BetterHelp. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can connect you with mental health professionals who understand what you're going through. Our listeners and viewers get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to this, shall we? How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action adaptation, a movie that we saw a number of months ago. We were lucky enough that they showed it, the full presentation of it to us at CinemaCon a few months ago, and we loved it. We thought it was fantastic. Didn't know how it would do at the box office, but now we do. It just had its opening weekend, and How to Train Your Dragon opened with $83.7 million in its opening weekend. Now, again, for context, when you compare that to previous How to Train Your Dragon movies, the first How to Train Your Dragon in 2010, it did not open to $495 million, by the way. I think there was 49 or something. Anyway, How to Train Your Dragon 2 opened to $49 million, went on to make $621 million. How to Train Your Dragon 3 opened to $55 million, went on to make $540 million. By the way, talk about legs. Because these aren't opening numbers that you would think would go on to make that much money.
Right.
And then now, How to Train Your Dragon, the live action adaptation, has made by far and away the most of the franchise so far at $83.7 million. Now, the context goes beyond just how it's done in relation to other How to Train Your Dragon movies. It's the fourth biggest opening of the year. We're already in June. We're about halfway through the year. And How to Train Your Dragon ended up being the fourth biggest opening weekend of the year. We take a look at this. Minecraft opened with $162 million on its opening weekend. Lilo and Stitch, that should be Lilo and Stitch, opened to $146 million. Captain America 4 came in third place at $89 million. How to Train Your Dragon now has come in fourth place with $83.7 million. And Thunderbolts, of course, opened to $74 million. Now, by the end of July, this list is going to be totally different, because I think we're going to have a Jurassic movie on there. We're going to have a Superman movie on there. We're going to have a Fantastic Four movie. But still, Rob, I think when we came out of the movie and watched it for the first time, you said to me, this is going to be big. And I didn't think I agreed with you. Like, I was like, I mean, the movie's awesome, but it's another animated film remake.
Yeah.
Are people, even if it's this good, and we knew it was good because I loved it, I think it can have legs. I think it can do well long term. I just don't know that a lot of people are going to rush out to see it, especially considering the fact that they haven't done a ton of marketing for it. But fourth biggest opening of the year so far, by far the biggest opening of the franchise, $83.7 million I think is a great result for this movie.
Great. Well, and worldwide, it made more money internationally.
Yeah, worldwide, what did it end up making as well? I mean, again, we never
it took it almost $200 million.
Yeah, again, we never
197.
count the worldwide numbers because every movie opens in a different number of
Sure.
things. But yeah, worldwide, it also pulled in an additional $114 million for $197 million total in just its first weekend.
Right.
So are you surprised by this number? Is it right where you thought it would be? And what kind of legs do you think this movie can have?
Well, first of all, I think that the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, all three of the movies, are very fulfilling. I think they're great movies. And for me, I don't watch as much animated stuff as I've gotten older, but I think I own the 3D discs of those films. And I think they really knew what they were. I'm always after authorship. And you literally had the writer-director who made this live-action version is the creator of this franchise. And I think when you saw it, what I got was authorship. I got a fulfilling story. And there's other movies that I've enjoyed, and this is kind of a bad analogy, that I thought were really good. Movies like The Last Starfighter. The Last Starfighter was not a huge hit, but it was really good. And I think Nick Castle directed that. And back in the 40 years ago when I saw it, I'm like, it was one of the very first CG films in terms of its effects being done by CG. But I felt this is really fulfilling. I'm fulfilled by this. And I felt that about How to Train Your Dragon. And I'm like, this was a great extension of the franchise.
Yeah.
And it really felt fulfilling. And when it was over, it doesn't have even these animated numbers. They're good, but they're not Toy Story numbers.
Right.
You know, they're fulfilling. And I felt like this is what I would call a solid earner. You know, the live action version, it would not surprise me if we see this movie surpass or get to $600-700-800 million worldwide. I mean, it'll be telling after the next couple weeks how it's going to do. But I think this movie's going to have legs, and I think people are going to go back because I think kids are going to go back and drag their parents. And I think it's going to have word of mouth, and it's going to stick around for a while.
Now, by the way, talking about its immediate, now we know it's got some stiff competition coming in a number of weeks. Once July gets here, and we got Superman, Fantastic Four, Jurassic. But even this weekend, we got 3 wide release movies coming. And I'm going to put them on my screen here. But we've got 28 Years Later opening. Also coming in wide release is the new Rebel Wilson movie, Bride Hard, which I am very excited about not watching. I like Rebel Wilson. Don't get me wrong. This looks horrible, but I'm very excited about not watching it. The other wide release film, of course, is the new Pixar film, Elio. Something that, I mean, you should never bet against Pixar, but nothing about these trailers have excited me. Then again, I said the same thing about Coco.
Right.
And I was a weepy mess watching Coco. I mean, that movie was amazing.
Yeah.
But still, let me ask you this. Can How to Train Your Dragon, with 28 Years Later opening, we're not asking what's going to be the better movie, okay? But with 28 Years Later opening, with Bride Hard, which is going to take some box office, and Elio opening, can How to Train Your Dragon be the #1 film at the box office again next weekend?
No. It's not gonna outgross Elio.
How much do you think Elio can pull in? Because if How to Train Your Dragon takes like a 55% drop, then you're looking at it making about 40 million, around the 40. Can Elio make more than that?
I would imagine Elio could do between 80 and 100. I would assume it's Pixar.
Really?
I do. I because I think we're betting against, because we're not as aware of Elio, maybe the mark, because I've seen marketing where I've been surprised that there's marketing for Elio.
Right.
One of the things another movie that's coming out this weekend that it's 28 days later, but it's on that list, is Sovereign, the Nick Offerman movie.
Right, but it's a limited release.
Totally limited release, but he plays like it's about the sovereign citizen movement, and I saw a clip from it. There was no trailer for it. There was just a clip of him addressing like his followers, and Nick Offerman played the president in Civil War.
Yep.
You know, Nick Offerman is the narrator in Life of Chuck, which I was surprised to see it didn't do very well this weekend when it opened wide, which I'm kind of bummed about. But I think it's the year of Nick Offerman. I'm a big fan.
I love Nick
Offerman.
Offerman.
And he plays like the villain, the sovereign citizen villain leader of this movement.
And he was
I'm
kind
like,
of the villain in Civil War as well.
yeah, it's like, count me in, Nick Offerman. You go.
By the way, early prediction could totally change because there's a lot of movies come out. You mentioned Life of Chuck. Yeah, I'm starting to think Mark Hamill might get an Oscar nomination for that. For supporting actor.
It wouldn't surprise me. And he's the villain. That's a Stephen King story. And he's the villain in The Long Walk, which is another. By the way, I totally forgot. I got to correct myself. There's The Monkey. There's The Long Walk. There's The Running Man. And there's...
That looks good, by the way.
Yeah, and there's one other. What one am I forgetting? The other Stephen King. Oh, and Life of Chuck. There's also a TV series of The Institute coming out.
I saw a trailer for that.
That's based on Stephen King's novel, The Institute, and it says he's the executive producer.
Not to mention Derry.
Oh, and Derry.
Yeah.
I mean, the year of Stephen King, man.
Yeah, it's the year of Stephen King. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think? I mean, easily and by a mile, How to Train Your Dragon came in #1 at the box office. I think overperforming, making over $83 million in its opening weekend. But with 28 Years Later, Elio, and a couple of others opening up, can it hold on to that spot going into its second weekend? Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? We got a He-Man Masters of the Universe movie coming. Prince Adam, He-Man, being played by Nicholas Galitzine, or Galitzine, or I don't know how he pronounces it, to be honest with you, but Nicholas Gal coming out, and he's just got on social media to announce they've completely wrapped filming now. He-Man, the Masters of the Universe movie, is now wrap filming. And while we've seen some production shots of what other characters are going to look like, we haven't had a glimpse of He-Man yet. I mean, we've seen Prince Adam in a pink shirt and hanging around, but we haven't seen He-Man yet. And now, coming off his social media, we've got this. First of all, I do love the sword. I think they nailed the sword. And it says, Nick, who plays... Oh, no, that wasn't... Oh, yeah, he did right. Nick, who plays Prince Adam, He-Man, has officially wrapped filming Masters of the Universe. Well, that's a wrap on Masters of the Universe. It has been an honor shouldering the responsibility of playing Adam/He-Man. It's been the role of a lifetime, and I put everything into it. There's not much I can show you, but I am so proud of this movie we've made. Thanks for our amazing cast and crew for all your hard work. And again, there he is. All right. I have two initial reactions to the image. Number one, in general, they nailed it. This is just a dark silhouette, but I think somebody in this live chat says he looks like a toy of He-Man. I completely agree. He does. I mean, they kind of nailed it. The other thing, it's a little small. Now, that's not fair because really, unless they got, who's the guy who plays Alan Ritchson? Unless they got Alan Ritchson, there's really nobody you can get that's going to look like He-Man.
Also,
right?
There's nothing there to compare him to. There's nothing you're looking at.
Oh, yeah, we're looking at him standing alone,
yeah,
not standing beside an average guy. So maybe if he was standing beside an average guy, look great. I mean, look, let's be realistic. The way He-Man is portrayed in the animation, you're never going to find somebody that remotely looks like that.
Right.
And if you do...
I mean, Dolph Lundgren came close.
Dolph Lundgren looked good, but even then, tall and even a little bit lanky for him, right?
Yeah.
For He-Man. And anybody on the planet that does look like they're getting close, they're not actually actors. They're professional bodybuilders that are going to ruin your movie because they can't act. So that's not a fair one. But in general, I kind of like what I'm seeing here. I still have some apprehensions about the movie, Rob. Don't get me wrong, even though I liked what they showed us at CinemaCon. What do you think about the image, and where's your expectations like right now for the movie?
Look, that was part of Amazon's presentation, was the He-Man thing. That was the last thing they showed us. And I've got to tell you, I always thought getting Travis Knight coming off of Kubo, coming off of Bumblebee was a great choice. I thought it was an even better choice that Travis Knight picked Guy Hendricks Dias to be his production designer. But when they showed us those, look, I could care less about a He-Man movie, to be honest. When we saw that behind the scenes stuff of all the character designs and the sets that they were shooting on, all those Eternian sets, I was like, huh. You now have my attention. And I really felt like this looks like an epic fantasy. And hey, maybe it'll be a tremendous misfire. I don't think it is. I think Travis Knight, he was made to make this movie. I think
again, just to remind people, Travis Knight is the same guy who directed Kubo and the Two Strings and directed the best live action Transformers movie with Bumblebee.
And I got to sit down with him and interview him once. And before the interview started, we talked for a while, and he's the guy. And the fact that he picked Guy Dias as the production designer is because Guy Dias is a fanatic in terms of getting things. If you want him to design your world for you, you're not going to. He designed Inception.
Yeah.
You know, and look at the sets in that. And he did X-Men too. Incredible. And Superman Returns. He's an amazing guy. The two of them together, I think, have created magic, and I think they picked the right people to be in the movie. I think they've cast, they took a long time. Obviously, this picture's not that impressive as Prince Adam, you know, looking at him now. But I think his performance, when we see him performing, and I think all the actors, look, Idris Elba's Man-at-Arms, that alone has me excited about that.
I am stoked about that.
And the way they designed the costume for Sorceress and some of the other vehicles that we're going to see, by
the way, the concept art, they didn't show us the actual costume, but they showed us the art of Skeletor.
Oh.
And it looked really good. I don't know how it's going to look on screen, but I got to admit, the concept art was amazing.
Dude, I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait. And Battle Cat's in the movie? Come on.
Yeah, again, this is a tough one to do, man. Doing He-Man and doing it well, making it a good movie, live action, It's a tall order.
But
dude.
they got the director has the right sensibility.
Yeah.
If he can do Kubo and he can do Bumblebee, he's got the right sensibility.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this first picture that Nicholas put out of himself as He-Man? Now, granted, it's just more kind of a silhouette. Other than the fact that it looks a little small, which again is not fair because there's nobody they could get that would actually muscle-wise look like He-Man. There's nobody they could have got. But I actually think it looks pretty good. How will the movie be? Don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. James Gunn has just come out and said, in response to a question, that in the DCU that he's creating, starting off with the Superman movie coming out in July, dead is dead. You know, one of the big drawbacks, I love my comic book movies. Everybody knows I love the comic book movies. I love most of the DCU. I love most of the MCU. I love my comic book stuff. I do. But one of the big frustrating things to me, particularly in the MCU, is how dead is never dead in the MCU. They have faked death so many people so often that it absolutely kills any sense of stakes. Oh no, like when Infinity War.
Well, he really died there.
Oh yeah, he actually died. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. Oh, so emotional. Oh no, boo-hoo, Spider-Man died. Oh, no. He's going to be back in about 10 minutes. Don't worry about it. Like, Loki's died and come back. I mean, it was good, but again, all the stakes are removed.
He was dead for 5 years.
He's disappeared for 5 years. But then you look at, say, Loki. Loki's died and been brought back 3, 4, 5, 6, 17 times at this point. No resurrections this time, except there is one coming. So, and you know, they use different mechanics to do it. They'll call it time travel or they'll call it multiverse. Either way, they killed the character, but they brought the character back. Whether it's Gamora or make you think that Thor died, but he didn't actually die.
Why is Gamora?
I've got a better one for you. Why Gamora? So, I mean, every once in a while, like the first Groot died. And he stayed dead. But that was a James Gunn thing. Quicksilver died. That's one they kept dead. But at any rate, James Gunn is coming out even before the first DCU movie comes out, and he's saying, nah, guys, dead is dead. Because there has to be stakes. You have to feel that there's a level of threat, because if this character doesn't dodge the bullet, they're gone. Anyway, he said this. This comes to us from Total Film. Death can be a big inconvenience when handling a world full of Kryptonians, light-up space police, and monsters put together by Victor von Frankenstein. Thankfully, Superman director and DC Studios CEO James Gunn has things under control. Always one for interacting with fans on threads, Gunn responded to a query regarding Creature Commandos, which got the green light for a second season last year. When asked if there was a chance that Princess Ilyana Rostovich, played by Maria Bakalova, might make a comeback after being shot in the head at the end of the first season, Gunn made things clear. In the DCU, if you die, you're dead, he explained. It's the way I have always done it. If you die, you're dead. His first Groot died, he stayed dead. A lot of people wondered after Guardians of the Galaxy 2 if Michael Rooker would come back as Yondu. Mary Poppins, y'all. Everybody was like, so many people were convinced they were going to bring back Michael Rooker. But to James Gunn, if a character dies, they're dead. And you leave them like that. Now, somebody followed up that question by asking, well, what about the Lazarus Pit? To which James Gunn gave a really good answer. He said, look, we could use the Lazarus Pit, but if we ever do use the Lazarus Pit, it's going to be completely centric to the story. Like, we're not going to go, any character dies? Well, we're just going to drag him to the Lazarus Pit. No. If we do a Lazarus Pit story, it'll be a completely centered around it, completely core to the story issue, but you're not going to see them going back to it again. So yeah, there's the Lazarus Pit. And then I saw a bunch of people earlier today writing, well, what about the Death of Superman storyline? They ain't ever going to do the Death of Superman storyline. Nor should they, to be honest with you. So to me, I gotta say, man, I really do like this philosophy because, you know, Rob, one of my all-time favorite shows, Sons of Anarchy. When Ope dies, who's my favorite character in the show, there is a truth to my emotions in there because I know he's gone. They ain't bringing him back. They shot him. They beat him to death actually in the prison. He's dead. And there's something about that adds to the drama, that adds to the real emotional connection we have to the characters, as opposed to in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, oh no, the bad guy actually killed him. Give it a couple of minutes, they'll be back. They'll be back shortly. Don't worry about it, right? And it adds to the threat. It adds to the stakes. It adds real consequences to things. So, is he actually going to be able to pull it off? We'll wait and see. But I, for one, love his rule. In the DCU, if you're dead, you're dead. I love that. Anyway, Rob, you hear him say that. What do you think about that in principle? And do you think he's actually going to be able to stick to that rule as we progress in the DCU?
Well, I think it's a great rule, and I think he probably will be able to stick to that. I mean, I think it's important that he does because, you know, they're establishing this 10-year universal plan. And I think, I mean, look, I'm not eager to see superheroes put to death. But I do think if you're going to tell stories, it would be something new to realize that consequences matter and that they resonate. And also the loss of a character can inform characters moving forward. And if everyone's just coming back from the dead all the time, I mean, I think the fact that they left Black Widow dead was a good thing. I think the pathos there and it informed the Yelena Belova character. And I think that we got a little taste of that in Thunderbolts. And I think it's good. So I think what he's doing is great. And let's hope he sticks to it. You know, and but then again, the impulse would be then, well, let's not kill those characters. So
well, then you've got to be very, very careful and deliberate about when you do decide to kill a character.
Yep.
You can't just go willy-nilly. Like at the end of Infinity War, who else should we have die? I would have Black Panther die. Have Wanda die. Like, you got to be 100% sure about your narrative and where you're going with your story before you make the decision to pull the trigger and kill off one of your characters.
100%.
Can you think of any, I mean, obviously Death of Superman comes up. Can you think of any other storylines, like prominent DC storylines, that could be impacted by James Gunn saying
Vigilante.
said?
The Adrian Chase vigilante who killed himself. I don't think he's going to do that, though.
No.
I mean, you've got him in Peacemaker. I can't imagine him killing himself, you know. No, I mean, that was the first thing that came to mind. But from, like, Marvel, the death of Captain Marvel, you know, who died of cancer. I think it was cancer that killed him. But I could see James Gunn taking a page. I mean, Supergirl dying in Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was pretty harsh. The Flash kind of died, but that was kind of a different situation. But Supergirl really died, you know, and they did other things. Of course, they brought her back later because it was the Crisis on Infinite Earths. So, you know, it's a new universe.
So consequences gone.
So you could do that. And I hope they don't, you know, do these. I'm so sick of universe destroying events. I mean, the cataclysmic events where they can reboot the universe. Final Crisis, Dark Crisis, the absolute Final Crisis. The crisis that's more final than the last. I mean, I don't like that.
That's a great title.
That was pretty good, though.
Yeah, I just, you know.
It was better than the last.
Crisis on Infinite Earths was the coolest title for a miniseries ever. I mean, I was so excited when that came out. And I loved it. It was great.
You know what the more immediate one is? A lot of people have been expecting to see Rick Flag come back.
Right.
And I guess, I mean, and maybe even expecting him to come back in Peacemaker Season 2. But with James Gunn saying that, I think I'll have to break it to Ray that I don't think Rick Flag's coming back. I think he's gone. He's dead.
No, I think it's a good way to be. I mean, it gives the universe stakes. It imbues it with emotional stakes. Look, I know when they made Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, they thought Spock was going to stay dead. But they did put that end tag at the movie that they shot in Golden Gate Park where you see the torpedo tube that carried his body. You know, I have to pass away must pass away again someday. I mean, I hate that. I mean, I know they had to bring him back, but it was a great death. They could have left him there and no one would have cared. It
His was the most
so good
human.
But yeah, you know, if you're going to kill somebody, let them die. And it also gives you a story opportunity that is truly great because you can build up something really significant around their death.
Yeah. And again, you just got to be really careful when you do it. All right, guys. Question is for you. Some people saying Guy Gardner's going to die in Superman. He can't. We've already seen him in
Peacemaker.
the trailer for Peacemaker, which happens after Superman. So we know he lives. Now, whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that all down, it's time for us to get to the most important part, which is taking your comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to bid adieu to the great Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, Rob. Good
Thanks,
to have
John. It was fun. I'll see you tomorrow.
And we're also going to take a quick second to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Stitch Fix. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Stitch Fix. Guys, you know I love movies, but you also know I have absolutely no fashion sense, and I absolutely hate shopping for my clothes. But thankfully, I have found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. With Stitch Fix, I get a stylist who understands my style, size, and budget, and they do all the shopping for me. Because look, shopping and figuring out style can be overwhelming, especially for somebody like me. When it comes to getting dressed, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. That's why I love having a Stitch Fix stylist. They really know what works for me. I get pieces that make me look great, and it's a real confidence boost. You just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences. You get to order boxes when you want and how you want, no subscription required. They send you personalized pieces, and the fit is always on point. No stores, no crowds, no stress. Just personalized looks that you will love. So guys, make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Campea. That's stitchfix.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Stitch Fix for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, we got a lot of questions to get to because, of course, on Friday's show, we had to cut it short because I was leaving for my anniversary weekend. So we got to get caught up on some of those and all the ones you guys sent in over the weekend. We'll get through as many as we can here. So Jonathan, what we got up first?
Anonymous writes, wife watched Superman trailer, most anticipated film. She seemed confused on if she should know the Justice Gang already. Made me wonder, with joining a universe in progress, do you think casual moviegoers might think they missed a film or show prior?
No, I don't think so. Like, nothing about the trailer for this has made me feel like I'm supposed to know these people. And again, it is very well known. This is a brand new universe. This is the first film. I really don't think it does any more than they are looking at this trailer and thinking they should know Superman, which of course this is his first movie in this new DC cinematic universe. You know, it's a lot different than, say, the Marvels, where it was like the 31st movie in the cinematic universe, give or take. And we all know, if you're not somebody who has Disney Plus, and the majority of people don't have Disney Plus, you know Captain Marvel, but the trailers for the Marvels, you don't watch Disney Plus, you have no idea who this Photon person is. You have no idea who this Ms. Marvel is. But the trailers completely make you feel like you're supposed to know who they are because we know this one person. The Superman thing is completely different. It's the very first movie of the cinematic universe. They have not seen. Again, the confusion in the Marvels came from, well, we've seen Captain Marvel. We have no idea who these other people are, and the trailers make it feel like we should. We've never seen this Superman before either. We've never seen the Superman. We've never seen anybody in this universe. This is the first film, so I really don't think it carries that same stigma.
Yeah, we didn't have to have individual movies for Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah,
So-
and again, like every movie that comes out, you're going to see multiple characters in a trailer that you have no idea who they are. I don't think anybody feels like they're supposed to know who these characters are. We know this isn't a sequel, so I really don't think the same stigma is going to be there. All right, what's next?
Sci-Fi Extremist says, let me pan down. John and crew. While I've been watching the show for years now, it's always been just the individual topic videos. In December, my daughter was born, and I've been a stay-at-home dad weekdays and working nights since. The live show has been a part of my daily routine. My only real life friends are coworkers, and they are only nerdy to a minimum. So 1 to 3 p.m. every day. It feels like hanging out with friends, especially since I don't always agree with you. Anyway, I want to say thank you for doing this show.
But
Yeah. Would also love to talk Superman if that's okay. What is the continuity or DCU reference you want mentioned in the film? Batman, Gotham, etc. Name drop, like Steve Trevor missing on the news or Central City, scientist survives lightning strike. I don't care about any of that.
I also don't care about any of that. Yeah, I don't have anything. You got to do that. No, they don't have to do anything. I really am, especially with this DCU being a clean slate, right? I am just there to see whatever it is they're going to offer. You know, and I think James Gunn, too, he mentioned when he was talking about his philosophy about post-credit scenes, he goes, you know, I don't like to do cameos and post-credit scenes if it's not completely thought out and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's going to be dropping a lot of these Easter egg things in the movie that he's then needs to follow through on later. So I'll be honest with you, I don't have anything I'm looking forward to. I'm perfectly happy this just being Superman. I'm happy if they bring in a little bit of talk about Batman over in Gotham. I mean, I really don't care. I just want to sit down in that chair, relax, and say, James Gunn, show me what you're bringing to the table, and I'm going to be completely happy with that.
Yep.
All right. And by the way, congratulations on the birth of your kid, man. That's amazing. All right, what's next?
Sci-Fi follows up. What do you think of the possibilities Mr. Terrific is a breakout star and Gunn is writing a solo movie as the sequel that isn't a sequel?
Wasn't there more to that?
And then asks, well, I was going to follow it up, but yeah, but asks if we think Lex Luthor will be arrested at the end of the film.
All right, well, we'll just stick to the first one. No, I don't think so. I don't think they're setting it up for, I mean, look, Mr. Terrific, it's one thing for James Gunn to put Polka Dot Man in an ensemble movie. And he used him. He made him incredibly great. I mean, Polka Dot Man was way better in that movie than I thought he would be. It's another thing to do a standalone Polka Dot Man movie. Mr. Terrific simply does not have the following. I think that's fair to say. We're not talking about the quality of the character, how cool the character is. We're talking about the same sheer public awareness and popularity. I don't think you can make a standalone Mr. Terrific movie. Now, maybe we go see this movie and everybody thinks Mr. Terrific, to use one of Rob's phrases, is the bee's knees. That Mr. Terrific steals the movie and he's the best thing in it. Then anything can happen. But in general, I really don't see that happening. I don't think they're going to do that. All right, what's next?
Shola says, what's up, guys? Been a couple weeks since the episode came out, but I'm still stunned by the quality of Andor Season 2, Episode 8. That has to be a top 10 greatest episode of TV ever. Disney at its peak, if you ask me. Disney Plus at its peak.
Again, the episode is incredible. I still think Episode 9 was even better. I mean, it's not the genocide on Gorman, but I think the way it's dramatically plays out and what's happening in Episode 9 might even top it. I mean, that's just how good Andor is, as we're sitting here debating which of Andor's episodes is like one of the greatest episodes of all time on television. That's how good this show is. You know, it was great last week. We got to talk about the Nielsen ratings finally coming out for its conclusion, and it completed the quadrant. Every single week, new episodes dropped. It set new record viewership for the series. Finally, with the last bunch of episodes coming out and it coming in at #1 on the Nielsen ratings. This show is incredible. Again, 8 is one of the most incredible hours of Star Wars you'll ever watch. I just think Episode 9 is an even better hour of Star Wars that you'll ever watch. Either way, Andor wins, and it was just an incredible triumph for them. All right, what's next?
We got Ray, who says with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Ray.
Hey, John, hope you all have a great day. Just a quick question. Do you think Henry Cavill as Bruce Wayne could be a good fit for the new DC, or would it be too much confusion to bring much hate with it?
There wouldn't be any confusion. There would be confusion for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, there would be confusion. Oh, right, this is a different universe now, and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I think Henry Cavill's a terrific actor. I think he would be a great Bruce Wayne / Batman. I really do. Would it seem a little gimmicky if they did it? Yeah. A little more gimmicky than if they made him a different DC character other than Batman. Yeah. But I think he could do it. And I personally wouldn't have any issue with it because I think he's great. And I think he would be a good Bruce Wayne / Batman. Then again, there are probably a good 20 other actors that would be a great Bruce Wayne / Batman. So I don't expect it. But I would be perfectly fine with it if they did. All right, what's next?
We got Jake Alba. Hey, John, today's my birthday. So
Happy birthday.
This is a few days ago, but same as Jason V. Is that Jason Voorhees? Thank you again to you and your team for always giving me a good show. You haven't disappointed since you first broke the news to me that Star Wars 7 was coming out. You guys are always the cool uncles to me.
I'll tell you what, I still remember that happening. I was in AMC. This is back when I still worked with AMC, and I was in our little converted storage closet of an office and studio, and it was later in the day, and everybody else had gone home already, and I was still in the office working, as I often was, and the news dropped that Disney had bought Lucasfilm, and they announced on that day that Episode 7, a new trilogy was coming, and Episode 7 was coming. Now, hindsight aside, now that we know what happened and everything, I don't think I've ever had a day that I was more excited as a film fan than that Star Wars was still going to be alive, that they were going to do more Star Wars. And again, put hindsight out of it. But at that moment, yeah, that was a really fun, one of the most memorable events of my career. You know, there are certain things, like I remember getting to announce that Deadpool 3 was finally coming and Hugh Jackman was going to be part of it. I remember talking about Star Wars is coming back. It's Disney bought Lucasfilm. I remember getting to be the actual moderator for the Avengers Age of Ultron press day. That was crazy. I'm standing there at the head of this table with Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Mark Ruffalo, like the whole cast, and I was sitting there leading the thing. That was an incredible moment. I've been the moderator in several Hall H panels at Comic-Con. I've got to have my own, but that right there is one of the most memorable moments of my career, was remembering when they made that announcement. It was and just freaking out. It was amazing. All right, what's next?
We got Rise, who says, after watching How to Train Your Dragon, seems like Disney should take some tips on how to do their live action remakes. With the exception of Aladdin, I enjoyed it more than any of theirs.
But what tips? What did they do in How to Train Your Dragon that they didn't do in the Disney films? Now, listen, I agree that other than Aladdin, which I think is a marvelous, marvelous adaptation, How to Train Your Dragon might be, I think, the best animated to live action adaptation of all time. Might be. I need some more time to think about that. But when you say they need to take, well, which tips? You know, I don't know that there's not a formula. Making a good film is making a good film. And all the things that go into making a good film, there's no little formula you pick up. Oh, if you have this number of CG characters, that's what makes the movie good. No, I mean, so I appreciate you saying Disney needs to take away some tips from How to Train Your Dragon. But what tips would you say those are? Because I don't know that there's any like formula points you can just replicate and drop into a Disney live action movie that makes it on the same level of How to Train Your Dragon. And again, there are some Disney adaptations I've loved. The Cinderella one with that Kenneth Branagh directed. Again, Aladdin, I thought was absolutely fantastic. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I thought the Lion King one was great, but that wasn't live action. That was animated too. Regardless. But yes, Universal is now 1 for 1 in live action adaptations. They're 1 for 1. They're batting 1,000 so far. And, it's just about making good movies, man. All right, what's next?
Zach from Canada says, hey, John, I hope you're doing well. If Lucasfilm were to create an Old Republic series, do you think it would be better as a live action show or an animated one? Personally, I think the animated route would be a better option. What do you think?
It all depends on what's your story, right? What's your story? It's not about, it's in the Old Republic. That's not a story. That's a setting. Well, Darth Revan. Well, I mean, that's the great thing about the Old Republic is you can do any kind of a story. First of all, nobody cares about animated Star Wars. I'm sorry, guys. Can we just admit that? When you look at the actual numbers, like the actual data numbers of how many people watch the animated Star Wars stuff versus watching the live action Star Wars stuff, can we just acknowledge that while it absolutely has a fan base, absolutely, and a devoted fan base, absolutely, can we acknowledge that comparison-wise, nobody watches them? So were they to do an Old Republic thing, which I've been really fascinated with the idea of them exploring Old Republic, because you can tell any kind of story because you're not handcuffed by things that normally handcuff prequels. because you're so far removed time-wise. You can tell any story you want, have anything happen that you want. I would like them to do live action. I probably wouldn't watch it if it's animated because other than Rebels, I really don't care about most Star Wars animated stuff. I like their live action stuff. All right, what's next?
Zach is back, says, on your show recently, there was a quick discussion on who could direct the DCU Justice League movie. If I had to guess on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd go for a solid 8 out of 10 that James Gunn will be the one to helm the project than the other mentions. Thoughts?
I wouldn't say it's an 8 out of 10 chance, but I think that's where the smart money is. My guess is that I don't think James Gunn will, pardon me, that James Gunn will direct another film until Justice League. I think he's got to focus on being the CEO. He's got to focus on the bigger picture. So it was smart to come out of the gate and set the tone with the first film. That's smart. And again, I have no insider information, but my guess is he won't direct again until we get Justice League. Now, somebody's saying, didn't he say he was working on another script? Oh, James Gunn will write. Oh, yeah, I think James Gunn will do a lot of writing, but I don't think you're going to see him direct because directing is all-encompassing. You can't do your other job if you're directing. So I don't think he's going to direct again until Justice League. Again, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just a fan speculating like everybody else. I could totally be right. I could totally be wrong, but that's my guess. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, crew, first time tipping, just graduated high school yesterday.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that.
I hope I didn't make y'all feel too old. I'm 28. I don't know what you're talking about. Old.
Graduating high school, man. Whew. I still remember when I graduated high school. Do you know both? I did not go to my graduation at a high school.
Oh.
And I did not go to my college grad.
Huh.
Either. I skipped them both.
You just bounced.
I just took the plaque and the piece of paper, and that was. I mean, I did show up to the one ceremony to get my degree, but other than that, I didn't go to my college thing or my high school thing. Yeah. But congrats on graduating high school, man. Now things get real.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Raymond says, saw Materialists last night. I love Celine Song's Past Lives.
Love that movie.
Like Dakota Johnson's part. Song used to be a matchmaker. It's quite interesting that there is a science to matchmaking, though the movie uses an agency my cousins met through dating apps.
Yeah, I remember when I first came to LA, my friends talked me into trying dating apps. And you know what? Dating apps are actually great. There was a stigma. I even made a movie about it. I made a movie called The Anniversary. And a tiny, no budget little film that's out there. And it was all kind of based on that, about the stigma of dating apps and then trying them. And I actually enjoyed some pretty great success with dating apps. I did. And then I met Ann. I did not meet Ann on a dating app. I met her at a Hollywood premiere party that Milo Ventimiglia had invited her to, and that's where I met her. And that kind of ended all that adventures. But my limited exposure to dating apps was great. Listen, I love Past Lives. That movie is a masterpiece. I wish I liked Materialists. I wish I liked it. It was a slow, boring, with moments of nice insight. Some moments of nice insight, and a couple of very funny moments as well. But it's kind of made me, this is the film that has pushed me to the moment that I'm going to say, I don't think Dakota Johnson's that good of an actress. I've always liked her, and she's terrific in Peanut Butter Falcon. But I've constantly just, like, for a number of projects now, I've just gone, okay, this wasn't the best day at the office. Oh, this one was going to be a tough one to pull off. Or, oh, maybe it's direction. She had Celine Song directing her. And I still didn't think she could pull out what was emotionally needed to elevate certain scenes. And I might be coming to the point now that I'm just starting to go, you know what? I just don't know if Dakota Johnson's a good actress. That's how I felt kind of about The Materialists. Anyway. All right. What's next?
All right. We got we got Ben who says, hey, John, Pixar's Elio releases next week. Did you know that Turning Red director Domi Shi is directing it along with Madeline Sharafian, who both took over from Adrian Molina? Does this make you more excited to see the film? First reactions are great.
Yes, because Turning Red was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So it does increase my interest. Again, it's tough, though, when the trailers don't hit for you. And I have to admit that the trailers for Elio have not landed for me. Now, again, that has happened to me before with a couple of Pixar films, notably Coco and notably Up. The trailers didn't really land for me with Up or Coco. Ask me what I think of Up and Coco. I freaking love those movies. So hopefully that can happen here as well. By the way, there's a little whispers going around that there could be a secret screening of Elio tonight. That Elio might be the secret screening. I don't know. I have no idea if that's true or not, but those are the whispers I'm hearing. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that because that might be a good one to go to.
All right, what's next?
CR, hey, John, any hopes in seeing magic in the DCU? I'd love to see a Wonder Woman movie that gives the Greek gods an active role in Diana's story. Likewise, a Constantine story that may even lead to Justice League Dark. Maybe bring Eric Kripke to lead it.
Oh, yes. If it's in the comics, James Gunn is going to tap it.
I feel like we're already sort of seeing it, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you are literally. I mean, yeah, you got Mr. Terrific, who's all the science guy, but you literally got Guy Gardner there with the magic ring. And John, you don't understand. See, it's not magic. It's tied into the Great. I understand all that, but I mean, yeah, James Gunn will definitely tap into magic in the DCU. No doubt about it. 100% we're going to get magic in the DCU. We might even get it in this movie, but 100% we're going to have it. All right, what's next?
BMC, do you think you'll post your out of the theater reaction for Superman on the 8th or 10th? Can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I'm going to see it on the 8th, so it would be disingenuous to do an out of theater reaction on the 10th.
Right.
So yes, 100% July 8th, when I come walking out of that theater, I will absolutely be doing an out of the theater reaction, and hopefully it'll be a good one. Fingers crossed, man. All right, what's next?
Performing artist says, John saw Materialist last night, A24 experiment, an edgy melodrama, Trojan horsing as a rom-com addressing an uncomfortable reality about dating that the manosphere has been addressing for over 10 years now. Props to A24 for going there.
I didn't think there was much profound about the movie, to be honest with you. The one thing I will say that's really interesting is that for A24, it's one of the most straightforward movies I've seen A24 do. And I like that. I think they should mix it up. I think they should do very traditional A24 films, but I think every once in a while they should do kind of more straightforward films as well. This movie would have worked much better as a rom-com. And I'm not saying that because all I want to do is have yucks. No. But if you watch the movie, it feels like it should be a rom-com. And I think the movie would have been more effective if it was. Other than that, I think there were some interesting moments with some great insight being presented, particularly about the material nature of modern dating and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there's some really good insight in there, but the story played out dull. And I felt no chemistry between Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans or between Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal. That hurts. And maybe some additional laughter throughout it might have alleviated some of that. But anyway. All right, what's next?
Henry Jones Jr. Says, hey guys, I noticed you didn't talk about the new Pixar movie announced today. Gato takes place in Venice, has a groundbreaking animation style for Pixar. Curious about your thoughts.
Don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I just saw it. It's 2D animation, which is odd for Pixar.
I know they talked about a tiny bit at CinemaCon. I think we might have mentioned that. But I can't give any thoughts because I really haven't looked into it much.
Yeah, all I've seen is one image. So,
all right, what's next?
Anonymous. Hey guys, with Andor's success, hopefully we can get more character-focused stories, whether they are new or existing characters. Personally, I'd love to see a Thrawn series on his rise to the Empire. His book trilogy by Timothy Zahn was fantastic.
Yeah, I really like his book series. I'm not talking about the non-canon book series of
Thrawn,
the Heir to the
like
Empire, but the new Thrawn, which I've read all of them. They're really good. I'm not interested in a Thrawn series. I'm not. I desperately want Star Wars to stop covering ground we've already covered. We've had Andor, that leads into Rogue One, that leads into New Hope. You know what? It's time. move stories forward. I don't mind a Thrawn movie that takes place after the events of, like, somehow Thrawn survived and is still around, but I just need stories that move forward. I'm so sick and tired of moving backwards. I'm just tired of it. Now, that doesn't mean it can't make great stuff that I'll enjoy, of course, but if you're going to ask me, all other things being equal, it's time to start expanding the Star Wars universe, not continuing to contract it. Anyway, that's just kind of my thought. All right, what's next?
Can't wait for Superman. It says, hi, John and crew. The other day, you were reporting that streamers were going to reduce the amount of projects they're producing. I think it's a very good news. I believe there's way too much things produced these days. As a cinephile, I used to watch movies I like over and over again. Now, even if it's a movie I love, I rarely watch it multiple times. It lessens the impact they left on us in the long term, in my opinion. They're less special to us. There's just too much. I've watched at least 30 series last year, and I can't remember half of them. I mean, it's impossible to keep up. Anyway, do you think it's a good idea to reduce the amount of content? And do you believe it's going to benefit viewers? Thanks for all you do. Can't wait for Superman.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this the other week. It's a very, very good thing for them to start reducing content, because it's not like they're just making enough right now. It's like, oh, no, they're making so much content that you'll never be able to see it. By the way, even once they reduce, they're still making more content than you'll ever be able to watch, even once they take a step back. So it's good on several levels. Number one, it's good for the studios because you're not wasting so much money. You're going to start wasting less money. That's good. Number two, let's say you're a studio. I'm just going to use made up numbers here, okay? Let's say you're a studio or streamer or whatever, and you're going to make 10 things this year. Now, next year, you've decided you're going to make 8. Well, that's good. Because that means, that means the movies that were number 9 and number 10 on your quality list, now you're just not going to make them. Right? Now you're just going to make the 8 best ones that you had, the ones with the most potential, the ones with the most promise, the ones that had the higher upside. And you're getting rid of the bottom dwelling chud stuff that you can just toss away. So that's a good thing too. So again, I do think it's beneficial for the viewer as well, because then there's going to be less crap out there to distract us or, vie for our attention instead of some of the better quality stuff that we could be spending our time watching. All right, what's next?
Jake G, fitting the final shot of The Last of Us Season 2 was the Seahawks Stadium. I took it as symbolism of the end of a disappointing season.
100% I can guarantee you that was not the case, nor their intention. By the way, with their signings this year, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think the Seahawks are going to be a legit team next year. I really do. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I think they're going to be a fun team to watch next year. All right, what's next?
Cameron Bailey with a 2-parter. I don't think there's anything I haven't done to get excited for Superman. Bought my Superman tickets on the 10th for $340 and $7.
Nice.
Pre-ordered every Funko Pop. Bought the Fortnite skin. Dairy Queen Keebler cookies, and bought a $300 cosplay suit to wear to the movie.
Dude,
I hope this movie's good.
Dude, we did a story last week about how the marketing for Superman was getting insane, right? So this weekend, Ann and I are in San Diego, and we had just gotten back from a long walk around Balboa Park. Like our watches tell us we did like almost 6 miles of walking.
Wow.
So we got back to the room. We had dinner plans later in the evening. And so Ann decided to crash out for a bit. So she took a nap. And I'm sitting in the other room watching TV a bit. And you know what? A great stuff for me when I'm just killing time. Watch HGTV, Food Network, whatever. So I pop on the Food Network and they're running replays of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. John, what does any of this have to do with Superman? Getting there. And during the commercials, they're advertising a new Super Cake Wars show that they're doing with, the guy who's the cake master, whatever his face is. And the thing they were advertising is, our contestants are going to be making a life-size Superman cake. And then you could tell it was also sponsored by Superman. Like, holy crap, they're even sponsoring on the Food Network.
Smart. I feel like too many films under market.
I mean, so not only were they playing trailers on the Food Network, they're actually co-opting their shows and making their shows do Superman-themed episodes.
Well,
like, they are going way above and beyond to market.
They might as well find, like, you know, those episodes where they do like a man cave or something.
Yeah.
He's a Superman fan, and they like man cave it up for Superman stuff. You know what I mean?
I 100% guarantee you one of those shows are going to be doing that.
Yeah.
100%. Anyway. All right. What's next?
I don't think of just that, and that he's going to buy the Hot Toys figures when it releases. Have you ever gone? The question was, have we ever gone all out for something like this? Not to that level, but
no. I think I've bought 3 sets of tickets for one day for a movie release. I think that's the most I've ever done. I'm not a big merchandise guy. I don't buy a lot of merchandise. I never have. It's very, like, even with like Hot Toys, I only own about 4 of them.
Yeah, I certainly don't purchase until after I see a movie.
Yeah, 100%. Like, because if like you drop $400 for a Superman figure and then you hate the movie, wah, wah.
Yeah,
like that's not good. That's not good at all. All right, what's next?
The Canon 2-parter. Fans since Man of Steel review. We still get a lot of those. I've always agreed with movies and team sports being perfect analogies. As a former football player and current coach, I'm honoring my passions by sending in tips, making some comparisons to football teams and movie making. My first might be a bit easy, but Belichick and Spielberg.
Yep.
Both led wildly different teams to victory, but Spielberg didn't have a Brady-level actor, I guess. However, Bill did win a ring as a coordinator before New England.
That's the thing about, like, people say, like, when the discussion about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick comes out, it's like they all did it with one. Here's the thing that people forget. Tom Brady on the New England Patriots won 6 Super Bowl rings. Never going to be equaled. Then he went to the Buccaneers and he won a 7th Super Bowl ring. But this is what people forget. He was on the Patriots for so long that 3 of his rings that he won on the Patriots were won with completely different rosters. Think about it. When you look at the roster of ring 1 and you go through all the players on the team, you fast forward a number of years, then he won a ring when every other player on the team was completely different from when he won his first ring. And yet they still won. By the time you get to his last ring, his 6th ring that he won with the Patriots, every player on the team, every roster spot on the team was a completely different roster, a completely different person than that second example we set. He literally won Super Bowls with 3 completely top to bottom different teams surrounding him that just so happened to still be in New England. Like, that's crazy. Spielberg, like Belichick, and as the coach who did it, is much like that. Spielberg doesn't just win in one genre. Like, I love Marty Scorsese. Don't get me wrong. I love Martin Scorsese. But Martin Scorsese makes one kind of film. I love Quentin Tarantino. But Tarantino really makes one kind of film. Steven Spielberg. It doesn't matter what genre you drop him in. He'll make a Best Picture contender in whatever genre. Want to do sci-fi? Cool. Want to do action? Cool. Want to do period piece? Cool. Want to do biography? Cool. You want to do, I mean, it doesn't matter. You want to do musical? Okay. Here's West Side Story. Oh my God. Nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. That's what separates him from everybody else. That's why, to me, there's no question about who is the greatest filmmaker of all time. It's not even close, folks. It's not even a discussion. Steven Spielberg is by miles the greatest filmmaker of all time. Not just because he has all these films that have been nominated for or won Best Picture at the Academy Awards, which is an impressive list. Not only because he's won and been nominated for so many Best Director. It's not just that. It's that he is a director that you can literally drop in any genre and he'll make it the best film of the year or one of the best films of the year. And that factor is what separates him from other greats like Marty Scorsese, like Quentin Tarantino. It's that he can make any kind of movie and be the best in the world at it. And that is not something I think we've ever seen before. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, hi, John. Which movie do you think families are more likely to see this? I think they mean July, if they can only afford one cinema trip between Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World.
That's a non-answerable question. It all depends on the family.
Yeah.
It all depends on the family. One family might go see Fantastic Four, and one family might go see Superman. I think the film that kiddies will be bugging their parents to see most out of the three is Jurassic World, actually. Because kids love giant dinosaurs, man.
Yeah.
But it really depends on the family. It's hard to say. There's no family demographic that leans one way or the other, especially if they're all like PG-13 films. So I don't really think I can answer that. Other one, I think the one the kids will most want to see is probably Jurassic. The one the parents will most likely to take them to, again, it varies family to family. But if I have to give an answer, I'll say Superman. All right, what's next?
Bry Guy says, do you think we'll ever get a new film adaptation of Stephen King's The Langoliers? Even if not so, my choice directors, Danny and Michael Philippus, talk to me, bring her back. Tony Gilroy of Andor or David Kopp.
No, I don't think they will. You know what? I've got a soft spot for the Langoliers. I do. But even then, I don't think it's that great of a story, to be honest with you. And about who could direct. I mean, look, as long as you get a good storyteller, that's all that matters. Like when it comes to, again, I always quote what Kevin Feige told me when I asked him about, hey, why did you get James Gunn to do Guardians of the Galaxy when he's never done anything big budget before? And Kevin Feige just said straight up, a good storyteller is a good storyteller. That's it. It's either somebody's a good storyteller or they're not. So yeah, any of those guys that you mentioned would work, but I think there's a lot of other directors who could do it well. But my guess is I don't think we'll see another rendition.
Wait, Tom Holland was in this? Was he? Oh, different Tom Holland. Gotcha.
Different Tom Holland.
Yes, very different Tom Holland.
All
Okay.
right. I don't know if Tom Holland was
I was
born
thinking
when
he's
that
like a
came
little
out, to be
kid
honest
in that,
with you.
like a baby. Like
He's
what?
the baby sitting in the
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
We got Bry Guy, just for fun. What would happen if a Despicable Me fan won $1 billion to the casino in Las Vegas? Well, that Las Vegas hotel would be gone. But then send his wins to Universal executives with a note attached asking for live action remake of Despicable Me. Will something happen? Yeah, the executives will all pocket a lot of money because you didn't get it in writing.
I mean, well, see, okay, so the answer to that is really simple. There's no downside. If somebody else is going to finance it, say, hey, make this movie
And distribute.
and I'll put up all the money for it. You literally risk nothing. Yeah, they'll do it. They'll do it. If Bill Gates goes to Disney and say, you know, I've always wanted a live action Thumper movie. Thanks a lot, Bill, but I don't think Thumper is I will give you $1.8 billion.
Thumper sounds great.
Thumper's great. Genius, Bill. Genius. Yeah, 100% they'll do it. 100% they'll do it. If somebody wants to put up the money and there's no risk for the studio, damn right. And everybody gets paid. They get to pay all the set construction people, all their gaffers, all their costume designers. Yeah, they'll do it. 100% they'll do it. All right, what's next?
We got Abdullah who says, what's the possibility of Chris Evans in Avengers 5 and 6 as Old Man Steve? It happens in the time runs out comic and he watches over Sam and maybe and maybe that way we don't step over Mackie and keep 616 Steve and not a variant.
Well, I mean, Chris Evans is saying he's not in 5. Right? He didn't say he's not in 6. He didn't say he's not in Secret Wars, which I think he will be. But he was pretty definitive in saying he's not in 5. And I actually kind of believe him. I do believe him when he says that. And I don't think we're going to see him as Old Man Steve. I don't think we're going to see him as Old Man Steve. I would like to. And again, I'm sorry, but Sam's character does not work as Captain America. Sam's character works awesome as Sam. He works awesome as Falcon. Anthony Mackie's incredible. But I said it before they made the announcement about, passing on the shield. I said neither Bucky nor Sam should be the new Captain America. Bucky should be Bucky. Sam should be Sam. Only Steve Rogers is Captain America. I don't give a fuck what's they do things differently in the comics than they do in the movies, and vice versa. They should step over Sam. I think Sam would have a much better future in the MCU if he was no longer Captain America. But who knows? Maybe the Russo brothers can totally change my mind on that once we get into Avengers Doomsday. All right, what's next?
It's all Wanda. Saw How to Train Your Dragon with my son. It hit me right in the Father's Day feels. For the first time, I saw myself not as Hiccup, but as a stoic.
Nice.
I hope you get to experience that one day. His name is Clark, by the way, his son. What next up? Superman going July 8th.
Very nice. That's got to be an amazing. I've always thought it would be an amazing sensation going to a movie that is part of either a franchise or an original that is really special to you when you were a kid. And now you get to go see part 9, or you get to go see a reboot or whatever of that thing that was special to you as a kid. And now you go with your kid. I love what you said there. It's the first time you watched the movie and didn't identify with Hiccup, but instead you identified with Stoic.
That's what's great about growing up with movies, because you see it from a different perspective.
And your perspectives change over time.
Yeah.
Like I bet kids, I'm just going to use an extreme example, but I bet kids who watch Little Orphan Annie, who then later watch it again as adults, I bet their perspective on the movie completely changed.
Because you're not the kid.
Yeah, you're not the kid anymore.
You're like, oh man, someone should look after that kid,
All right, what's next?
They formed a team. I'm still butthurt about losing Henry, but Perry's interview with Gunn, I'm guessing she means Perry Nemiroff, with Gunn in the cast made me warm up to Corn Sweat. To be honest, I'm most excited about seeing Isabella's Hot Girl, but I want to be won over by Corn Sweat. Going in with an open mind, I trust Gunn.
One of the things, again, whether the movie is going to be great or not, that's still up for question, right? We won't know till we see it. There are certain things that I feel very confident about, though. Number one is that my initial apprehension about them using crypto is going to be completely blown away. I think people are going to love crypto. I think that I feel pretty confident about. The next thing that I feel really confident about is that people are going to love David Cornsweet. I've seen a bunch of stuff with him too, and I really think, again, Henry Cavill is my favorite Superman of all time. I don't need David Cornsweet to be better than Henry Cavill. I just need him to be a great Superman. His own Superman. That's unique and different than Henry's Superman or Christopher's Superman or any of the other Supermans we've ever had. And yet is still distinctly Superman. And I really think David Cornsweet's going to win a lot of people over. I don't expect that he'll replace Henry as my favorite, but he doesn't need to. I just do expect he's going to win a lot of us over, though. All right, what's next?
JICSC says, been stuck with some inspiration recently, so I'm going to work on a second detective novella. I have my villain's basic motivation, revenge, but want to give them a few layers. What overlooked villains could I check out, film, TV, book for notes? It's interesting.
That's a good question. Who's one of the really more interesting villains, and it comes out of a bad movie? Tom Hardy's Captain Picard clone in that Star Trek movie. That introduces a lot of very complex and complicated motivations right there. Again, I didn't like the movie very much, but it's actually a really interesting character to look at when you go into the different motivations and whatnot, and the things that kind of make his gears turn. I think that would be an interesting one to take a look at.
You might want to just the easy answer is check out what's their name? They put out the top 100 musicals, top 100
AFI's top 100 villains.
Top 100 villains.
Yep.
There's that list, and then
that's true. That's a good one to go and look at as a reference. 100%. Yep. All right, what's next?
James UK. My first choice for James Gunn's Wonder Woman would be Elizabeth Debicki, a very good actress who played Diana in The Crown. She is not exactly small, about 6'2". Wow. I think she would be great with Wonder Woman being an Amazonian. However, I trust Gunn, whoever he casts.
I mean, listen, again, when it comes to X actor and X role, as long as it's a talented performer, she's a talented performer, man. And James Gunn has got experience with her. And yeah, listen, if again, would she be my first choice? No, but would she be on the list that were they to announce her, for me, were they to announce her tomorrow as a new Wonder Woman, I would go, yeah, I'm down with that. Again, I probably have like 10 or 15 other names before her, but she is definitely one on the list that I would go, yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. Because she's a great actress. So that's the most important thing. All right, what's next?
We got PD Pete. Fun question for you. Superman crushes financially and critically, but you got to release your dance tape. Or bombs financially and critically, but the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. Oh, come on. He's going for the Leafs.
100% the Leafs. Like, I don't talk about it a lot on the show because most of you Americans don't understand hockey. Or it's not born in your DNA like it is for us Canadians.
I get it. It's a black and white ball. You kick in the goal.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it a lot, but you guys just don't get how important the Toronto Maple Leafs are to me. And the reason you don't get it is because I don't talk about it a lot, because not a lot of people want to hear me talk about hockey. Even when I talk about sports, I try to talk about sports that are more attuned to what most people watch, you know, whether it's football or whatever. But you have no idea how important the Toronto Maple Leafs are to me. And the fact and how big of a role they've played in my life. And the fact that they have never been to the Stanley Cup Finals in my entire lifetime. Think about that. The entire time I've been alive and on this earth, they've never been to the Stanley Cup Finals. Is a sore spot. So you could say, burn all of Hollywood and all of Hollywood history, but the Leafs win the Stanley Cup? Goodbye, Hollywood. Smoke them if you got them. I'm taking the Leafs Stanley Cup. No doubt, 10 times out of 10, every single day. So, yes, there's that. All right, what's next?
Man, you would have made a great villain for Wonder Woman 84. Just get your wish and everything burns.
And everything else burns as long as I get my wish.
Yeah. Your Name says 7 years after Dennis Hayes' birth was POTUS on 24. I used to love those episodes of 24. U.S. elected its first black POTUS. Did Judi Dench as M lead to Blase Meterwelli to be promoted from Q to the first female M in MI6? Not really sure.
I don't know anything about British Secret Service.
I highly doubt it. I don't think they watched that movie and they were like, you know what would be a good idea?
Yeah. I really don't think, nor do I think Dennis Haysbert playing the president in 24 led to Barack Obama being elected twice. So no, I don't think so. All right, what's next?
We got, we got best scenes from a trailer. Says 10, Clark and Lois kissing. I see. Number 9 would be Lex, I'll kill them too. 8, robots healing Superman. 7 would be make a move, Big Blue.
I love that.
Batters up shot. Which one was that?
When he like literally pulls the club out and it's a spinning motion and then he hits the guy with the giant metal stone club.
Right. That was a quick shot. Number 5 would be Mr. Terrific. Quit messing around. I like the follow-up to that.
Yeah, I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff. I love that line.
Number 4 would be Superman suplex. Yes, because we see the other side of that attack.
Yeah.
Number 3, Superman flying and dodge kaiju fireball. 2, heat vision spinaroo. And number 1, Superman punch with the clink.
Yeah, I can't, because it's a multiple things with that, with the teeth being knocked out. It's the teeth being knocked out. It's the punch. It's the clink against the camera, and it's Crypto. Like starting the shot by literally grabbing that guy by the head with his teeth and then ripping his helmet off so Superman could come in with the cross and knock out his teeth. It's so great. Again, the trailer is a masterpiece. I've seen lots of great trailers to bad movies, so hopefully that's not the case here. All right, what's next?
Gaz and Dylan Gretsch says, hi, John, massive fans of anything to do with Superman. Just wondering what your thoughts are regarding how Superman flies. I don't think anyone has mastered as good as Christopher Reeve with how he understood the aerodynamics, arm, body shape, etc.
Well, I
That
don't
would have
think-
been the director more than anyone.
No, I mean, you go back now and watch. Look, the reality is, you go back now and watch, and I love the original Superman movie, I do, but you go back and watch that now, it doesn't look so natural. But at the time, it was the techniques were so far ahead of its time. It was nothing people had ever seen before put to film. Not like that. By today's standards, I'm just calling like I see it. It looks a little bit rough now. So I don't agree. I don't agree. I mean, again, it was masterful for its time, but times have now moved on. We're like, what, 50 years later? So yeah, there's that. All right, what's next?
Vincent High says there is a short interview with you on YouTube with Leonardo DiCaprio that he confirmed he did smear his own blood on Kerry Washington's face in Django Unchained. Every actor stayed in character in that moment. Tarantino was shocked, so there's that.
Yeah, well, because remember,
And Will Smith could have
he
been
was
in it.
not planning on cutting himself either.
He did it on the skull, right?
It was on something.
Or the glass. He
it was the
smashed
glass.
something.
Yeah, he wasn't the cut. That was real. That wasn't
Yeah.
planned, and he just went with it. Smearing your blood on somebody else, you got to think about that. It is what the character would have done, and it was powerful on screen. And kudos to Kerry Washington for rolling with it as an actor. I think she would have had a legitimate gripe if after the shot was done, she called for her lawyer. But again, it's like when you get to the behind the scenes stuff on how all that kind of stuff transpired, it was amazing. All right, what's next?
Wendell Clark Kent says, my two picks for Wonder Woman, Amber Midthunder. It's not necessary, but it would be interesting if they gave Wonder Woman an indigenous origin. Mackenzie Davis, one of my favorite actresses. Recently saw her with long dark hair, and I'm sold.
Yeah, the problem, by the way, I love Mackenzie Davis. I don't know why she did not become bigger than she was. Like, I know she did that Terminator movie that not many people liked.
Yeah.
Like, not many people liked at all. But, hold on a second. I'm trying to find up. Okay. Mackenzie Davis is 38 years old now. Which means even if they started the wheels in motion today, she would be 40 by the time the first Wonder Woman came out. That might be a little late to start. Like, let's put it this way. If they were doing like a crisis movie of some kind and they just needed somebody to play Wonder Woman from this one time, but they only need her for one movie, boom. I'd be all down for Mackenzie Davis. But to start a brand new franchise with a character who's probably, with a performer who's probably going to be 40 by the time they start, I think they got to go a little bit younger than that, especially if they're hoping that this person could be like the next Hugh Jackman that plays the character for the next 15 years. But I love Mackenzie Davis. I do. I think she should be in more stuff. I honestly don't know why she hasn't broken out to be bigger than she is, because I think she's fantastic. All right, what's next?
We got Blake, who says, with Batman, I hope they let the legend grow a while in the universe before bringing him in. I also want to see a comic-accurate version. We've seen the grounded Batman to death. I want to see Batman do things no one can explain how a human can do.
Here's the funny thing, though, Blake. When you say comic-accurate, which comic-accurate? Batman's been done a lot of ways by a lot of in a lot of different titles, by a lot of different artists and a lot of different writers. That's, I remember, it's very much like an Unto, and I've told the story before, but when Superman Returns was coming out with Brandon Routh, they went to Comic-Con, and somebody asked the director, why did you change the Superman costume? Why did you change the Superman costume? To which he said, change from what? In the comics alone, there have been like over 40 variations of the costume. So when you say, why did you change the costume? My question is, change from what? When you say a comic accurate Batman, there is no such thing. There's comic accurate to this era, or comic accurate to that era, or comic accurate to that year, comic accurate to that writer, but that's going to be different than comic accurate to that writer. So again, anybody would say to me, I want a comic accurate Batman, I would say, like, well, Batman's been around for like 70 plus years. Which comic book are you saying you want him to be accurate to? Because he's been done in all kinds of ways, right? All kinds of ways. I think, though, in this DCU that James Gunn is creating, I don't think you're going to get the Christopher Nolan Batman, right? This is a world with gods and monsters. This is a world that does that, and I think this Batman is going to reflect that a bit. All right, what's next?
Bowser's Castle says, the other day I had a hilarious idea. I doubt this would happen, but imagine if in Spaceballs 2 they say that Barf died being crushed by a moon as a joking reference to how Chewbacca infamously died in the expanded universe.
Listen, 99% of the movie audience would not get it at all.
Nah.
But if they did it, you would hear 4 or 5 people in that theater laughing their ass off. And then you would know who got it. For those of you who don't know, in what is now called lore stories, the expanded universe in the novels of Star Wars that happened before Disney bought Lucasfilm, they actually killed Chewbacca by hitting him with a moon.
That'll show him.
While he was shaking his fist going, roar, and a moon hit him and killed him. It's one of the dumbest things ever. But that, yeah, so if they did that in Spaceballs, again, the theater will be dead quiet because they won't get it, and you'll hear 4 or 5 people laughing their ass off, and then you'll know who knows. You'll know who knows. All right, guys, listen, there are still a few more questions, but we've run out of time here today, so we'll get caught up on the few questions that are still left on tomorrow's show. But for now, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. So, for the now departed, off on his way home, Robert Meyer Burnett, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys tomorrow.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.